Hello students, today we are going to take up some properties of definite integrals. Now these properties, they help us to simplify the procedure of solving the definite integrals and hence play a very important role in solving integrals. Moreover, sometimes the question itself says that solve a particular question by using the properties, and then you are definitely required to make use of properties, otherwise you lose marks. So whatever the case may be, properties of definite integrals play a very important role in solving the definite integrals. So let's start. The first property, which we will be naming it as P0, says that a to b fx dx is equal to a to b ft dt, which very clearly means that the limits remaining the same, the function remaining the same, if you simply change the variable of integration, the value of definite integral remains the same. Let's quickly do the proof and try to understand it. These proofs will help you understand the properties better, and that is why I'll be taking up proof for every property. So let's quickly take it. Left hand side, the value is suppose the function is fx, so from a to b, which comes out to be fb minus fa, and the right hand side, since the integral is the function is the same, so the integral comes out to be ft. Now here, instead of being the limits of x, we have the limits of t, which again come out to be fb minus fa. Clearly left hand side is equal to RHS, and so we can easily claim that if the function is the same and the limits are also same, a simple change in variable does not have any impact on the value of the integral. That is, the definite integral remains the same if the function, the basic function, is the same and the limits of that variable are the same. Now coming to the next property, we have P1. It says that limit a to b fx dx is equal to minus b to a fx dx. Okay, and what does this mean? That the function is the same, the variable of integration is also same. The only difference is that we have swapped the limits of this integration, and what we get is the negative of the original result. So basically the function remaining the same, the limits remaining the same. If you just simply swap the order in which we apply the limits, that is, the upper limit becomes the lower limit and the lower limit becomes the upper limit, the value so obtained would be negative of the original value. So let us quickly take up the proof. That is, the left hand side, we already know the value. If suppose the integral of fx dx is capital Fx, so the value is fb minus fa. When you start solving the right hand side, we get fx from, and minus is already outside, from b to a, which comes out to be minus of fa minus fb. When we open the brackets, it becomes the same as fb minus fa. So clearly again here also we have the left hand side equal to right hand side, and so we can safely take this as a property. That is, when you integrate a function fx with respect to a variable x from a to b, the value so obtained is negative of the integral so obtained when you integrate the same function with respect to the same variable but after swapping the limits. So in particular, we can also say that in particular we have integral from a to a fx dx equal to 0. It means if you are integrating one function from a to a, that is from the same point, the upper limit and the lower limits are the same, the value of integral remains the same. Very obviously fx the value would be fx from a to a, which comes out to be fa minus fa, which is 0. Now let's come to the next property, which is property P2, that is integral from a to b fx dx is equal to integral from a to c fx dx plus integral from c to b fx dx, where c is any point lying strictly between a and b. So what does this mean? That in case we are given any integral, we can easily split it into two or more integrals where the function remains the same, but only the limits get split into at various points. Like suppose you have c any point between a and b, you can write it as from a to c some function plus from c to b the same function. Same way, if we have more than one values c1, c2, c3 from a to b, then also we can split the integral into so many smaller integrals between the smaller intervals. So let's quickly take up the proof for this also. So what do we get? We already know the left hand side is equal to fb minus fa. This we are already aware. Now let's take up the right hand side. Right hand side would be fc minus fa plus fb minus fc, and when you solve it, fa remains the same, you get fc and f minus fc gets cancelled, and you are left with fb minus fa, which is the same as the left hand side, which is equal to left hand side. And hence we can very clearly say that if you are given any function which is to be integrated from a to b, then we can easily split it up into two intervals from a to c and then add it with from c to b, where c is a point lying between a and b. Similarly, we can extend the same thing as a to b fx dx equal to a to c1 fx dx plus c1 to c2 fx dx, and going in this manner, last one would be cn to b fx dx, where a is less than c1 less than c2 less than, going in this manner, cn, which is less than b. Now we come to the next property, that is property number 3. It says that, now this is a very important property, that is fb fx from a to b fx dx is equal to integral from a to b f of a plus b minus x into dx. This is a very important property, and a corollary to this, which is the next property, is used even more often than this property. Now what does this one say? That if we have a function which is to be integrated between a to b, the value remains the same. If we integrate the same function at a function which is of x, here we replace x with a plus b, which is the sum of the two limits, minus x, and then find the function and whose integral is to be found out. So let's see, we already know that. Now let's quickly see the proof of this. Left hand side we already know it is fb minus fa. Now let's start with the right hand side. Now here we know that this is a function of a function, so right hand side is a to b f a plus b minus x into dx. Let's call it I. Now here now what we get is, we put as usual, as we usually do, that the inner function we always put as t. So let's put a plus b minus x as t. We get minus dx as dt. Now when you since it's a definite integral, we will change the limits of integration. So what do we get? When x equal to a, t is equal to a plus b minus a, which is b. When x equal to b, t is equal to a plus b minus b, which is a, and hence the integral becomes, now when x is a, t is b. When x is b, t is a. Now f of t, and in place of dx we will write minus of dt. Now this will be equal to, now here we have just done in the previous property, that is property number 1, that whenever we have a minus sign outside the integral, you can easily swap the limit. So this becomes equal to a to b ft dt using property 1. Now here one thing you have to be careful about is that we don't make use of these P0, P1 as reference points, because every book has a different way of naming them. Instead we will actually quote the property while using that property. Instead of using P1, P0 and all that, we will actually quote the property which we have used. Now this is equal to, now using property 0, the first property, we know that we can easily change the variable of integration to something else. So we can write it as fx dx using P0. Here again we will, instead of using P0, P1, etc., we will actually quote the properties. Okay, and this is equal to the left hand side, which is FB minus FA, and hence we can easily use this property also, that whenever we have we are given an integral a to b fx dx, we can easily write it as from a to b f of a plus b minus x, where a and b are the lower and the upper limits respectively. Now we come to the next property, which is extremely important. It is used very, very often in mostly all of the questions. So it is basically can be derived from as a corollary to this property just done, but it can be done otherwise also. So what does it say? 0 to a fx dx is equal to, from 0 to a f of a minus x dx. So which can be easily proved using this one, that here proof. So what do we have? Using the above property P3. So what do we get here? 0 to a fx dx will be 0 to a f of, now sum of the two limits, that is a plus 0 minus x dx, which is equal to 0 to a f of a minus x dx, which is equal to the right hand side. So we can easily prove this property also, and this is extremely important, is used very, very often. Now before proceeding to the remaining properties, we will first do some questions based on them, so that you can understand the use of these properties. Now again, I will again show you, suppose you don't want to use this property P3 to prove this one, we can start with we can prove this again directly also using the right hand side. Right hand side we have 0 to a f of a minus x dx. Here what do we do? Let's call it I. Then here, just like above, we can put a minus x as t. So when we differentiate, we get minus dx as dt. When x is 0, t is when x is 0, t is a, and when x is a, t is 0, and so I becomes equal to, here a to 0 f of t. Now in place of dx we will write minus dt, which using the previous property becomes, like the minus sign gets absorbed, it becomes 0 to a ft dt, which again using the previous property you can just simply change the variable of integration, you get fx dx, which is equal to the left hand side. So this is another way of proving the same property. Now let's quickly do questions based on it. So for that we start with exercise 7.11. Now in this what we see is question number 1. If we see I is equal to 0 to pi by 2 cos squared x dx. Now by using the properties of integrals we have to evaluate this integral. Now clearly it is of the category of property number 4. So using 0 to a fx dx equal to 0 to a f of a minus x dx, we get I is equal to 0 to pi by 2 cos squared pi by 2 minus x dx. But cos of pi by 2 minus x is sine of x. Square remains as it is, and that is dx. Okay, call it equation number 1, call it equation number 2. Now adding 1 and 2 we get I is equal to this, and this is also I. So we get 2i is equal to 0 to pi by 2 cos squared x plus sine squared x into dx. But we know that cos squared x plus sine squared x is 1, and so we get 0 to pi by 2 1 dx, which is x from 0 to pi by 2, which is pi by 2. And this gives us I is equal to pi by 4, which is the answer. Same way we have question number 2 and 3 can be done. So let me take up question number 3. Question number 2 can be easily done on the same lines as question number 3. So I is equal to 0 to pi by 2 sine of 3 by 2 upon sine of 3 by 2 x upon sine of 3 by 2 x plus cos of 3 by 2 x into dx. Let's again call it equation number 1, and again using property. Now instead of writing P4 we will actually quote the property, that is fx dx is equal to 0 to a f of a minus x dx. We get I is equal to 0 to pi by 2 sine 3 by 2 pi by 2 minus x upon sine 3 by 2 pi by 2 minus x plus cos 3 by 2 pi by 2 minus x into dx. Now again we know that sine of pi by 2 minus x is cos of pi by 2 cos of x. So we will simply get this is cos of x and the power remains the same. So cos raised to power 3 by 2 x upon cos raised to power 3 by 2 x plus sine raised to power 3 by 2 x dx. Let's call it equation number 2. Again proceeding the same manner as before, we get adding 1 and 2 we get 2i is equal to 0 to pi by 2. Now denominators of both are the same, that is sine of 3 by 2 x plus cos of 3 by 2 x. Numerators also get added up because here we have sine of 3 by 2x and here we have cos of 3 by 2x. So we get sine of 3 by 2x plus cos of 3 by 2x into dx, again which gives us 1 dx, which is from 0 to pi by 2, which is x, and ultimately pi by 2. And so we get I is equal to pi by 4 as before. Okay, so this is the answer. On the same lines we can easily do question number 2, question number 4, question number 8 can be tried. Okay, thank you.